Welcome back to the School Hour CEO podcast. I, of course, am your host, Danielle, and joining me today is someone who's going to help you stop spiraling, stop snapping, and start actually feeling like the calm, present mama that you want to be. And I'm so excited to welcome Katherine Miller, the founder of Moving Mountains with KM. She's a mom, a mentor, and a master at helping mom entrepreneurs release anxiety, stop yelling at their kids, and finally reclaim a sense of their inner peace. In this episode today, Katherine shares her personal journey from overwhelm to emotional regulation, and she's going to give us super practical tools we can start using today in those tiny in-between moments of school drop-off and pickup. So if you've ever felt like you're doing everything but still feel on edge, this is the episode for you. So let's get into it. Katherine, I'm so excited to have you here. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited for this conversation.
Me too. And I always like to start by kind of pulling back the curtain a bit. And so before you became the coach and the guide that you are today, what was life like for you, especially as a mom and a business owner? Let's start with where your story begins.
Oh, goodness. So I probably won't go all the way to the beginning because it's an 11-year process, but just, for the majority of my oldest daughter's first 8 years, it was anxiety 24/7. It was constant overwhelm, from going through a divorce and a toxic marriage to starting my master's program to living on my own for the first time while keeping a toddler alive, right? So think about anything that could activate your nervous system. And I felt like I was going through it. I'm very go big or go home. So, that's why, why not get divorced and, start a master's program all at the same time?
Sounds like a good idea.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, just constant anxiety and overwhelm. And I just thought that's just how life was supposed to be. Growing up in that household, in my household, growing up with a single mom and one older sister, it was just the three of us. So we were kind of all anxious for an extended period of time there. And that's what I saw. That's what I witnessed. At no fault of my mother. She didn't know any better either. And that's kind of what I knew. And I didn't know any other way. So I thought that's the way life had to be. And then I started my own business and cue even more overwhelm and even more anxiety than I thought was possible with just managing everything all at once. Oddly enough, the decision to start my own business brought me the most peace. But then kind of everything after that, when I started to shift into the coaching role, and I decided that there had to be another way. And what I share is my breaking moment was when my oldest daughter just looked at me one day and she just said, right in the eyes, she was like, "Why are you always mad at me? Why do you always yell?" And I had just decided that, okay, this cannot be what how my children grow up. This cannot be what her image is of me. This isn't what I want for her. Because I'm not mad at her. It's really not about her, right? It's not about what she did. It's not about the million questions that she just asked me, right? It was just everything internal, and I just didn't know what to do with all of that. So that's what started my self-healing journey. And I realized I had healed from the inside out. And I had heard this quote once, and I wish I could find it again, but it was basically about the ripple effect. And that's what really got me thinking too, is how I react to my children creates the ripple effect in my home.
Right.
And that's not what I wanted. I didn't want this ripple effect of anger, because that's how my anxiety shows up. My anxiety explodes as anger, unfortunately, or it did. I'm not perfect. I'm still human. I still yell sometimes, sometimes more often than I want to. Emotions are a part of the human experience. But now more than ever, I have more inner peace, and I'm able to tap into that a lot quicker than I used to. And, the apologies come a lot sooner than they used to as well. Because I'm very big on also apologizing to my daughter when I mess up so that she can witness that and experience that and mimic that as well.
I love that so much. You know, I literally just yesterday I had kind of a stressful afternoon, and then I snapped at my son, and it wasn't his fault. And I apologized to him. I said, look, I'm sorry. I'm not proud of myself. I shouldn't do that. He said, it's okay. And I said, it's not okay. I shouldn't do that. You don't deserve it. It's not your fault. You've been at school all day doing your thing. You're not the reason why I'm anxious right now, because also my out of alignment, you know, anxious, whatever, it is anger also. And so I yell, which I'm not proud of. And like you say, I've been doing the work a long time too. So I feel like I do a better job. It's still not perfect, but also the apologizing. I think that's huge, because I know, I mean, I'm not trying to throw my parents under the bus. They were doing definitely doing the best they could, but I never got an apology for being yelled at, for being made to feel like I was the root of the problem. Like when I know that I've messed up and I should not have reacted that way, I say something to my son. I say, look, I should not have done that. I'm so sorry. And then he will apologize. He'll say, I'm sorry that I yelled too. And I said, thank you. I appreciate that. Right. And it's important that we teach our kids, like you say, it's not, I mean, yeah, obviously we want to get to the point where we're regulated enough that we're not yelling, but we're still human. And so the next best thing is we can show our kids that it's okay to be wrong. It's okay to have made a mistake, and it's okay to admit that we made a mistake, instead of like what my parents did, was just ignore the fact and, you know, brush it under the rug and not, and again, they're doing the best they knew. And chances are they were doing exactly what they were raised to do. Right.
Exactly.
Right. So it is a ripple effect. And so I love your mission of helping moms and teaching moms how to feel their feelings. But I know for some women, and I used to be one of these women, that concept can feel very abstract and even scary. So can you walk us through what that really looks like in a busy mom's everyday life?
Yeah, I'll do my best to make it succinct. And because it's one thing that I also had to figure out. And I realized that so patterns is my superpower.
Right.
You know, talking about human design, patterns is my superpower. So I noticed this pattern no matter what we were doing. Because part of my history is also a mental health therapist turned anxiety coach for moms. So with different therapy modalities, whether it's CBT, DBT, EMDR, a lot of letters, but bear with me here. And then yoga, you know, going out into yoga and meditation, and just kind of anything we do to calm our nervous system, EFT tapping. What I realized the pattern is everything was walking people through what I call my feel it to free it framework now, but it was walking through embracing what they were feeling. Just, okay, this is what you're feeling.
Instead of pushing it down, or ignoring it, or pretending it wasn't there. Yeah.
Yep.
In denial.
Right.
Denial. Yeah.
Yes. So instead of ignoring it and suppressing it or repressing it, we're embracing it, right? So we're allowing it to be present. And then we're walking through accepting it. We're detaching from the story, and we're just accepting that this is what's coming up, because we're human and we don't have control over which emotions come up or which thoughts come up, because you can apply all of this to thoughts. But we just have to accept that that's what came up. And so we detach from the story. So then we walk through accepting it no matter what we're doing. And then we walk through a release process. And there's different ways that you can release the emotion. You can release the thought that isn't serving you. But then we release it. And then I've added this final step of aligning. Now align with how you do want to feel. Now align with what thoughts are going to serve you, are going to empower you to what you want to be doing.
Right. That's so important. And you know, I started really thinking about this when I was reading a book called The Greatest Secret, which was written by Rhonda Byrne, which is the same woman who wrote The Secret, but The Greatest Secret she wrote a decade later. And it's talking about a lot of the same things, right? She says, you know, when an emotion comes up, pretending it's not there or ignoring it or wanting it to go away or resisting it, all that does is perpetuate it being there, because it needs to be felt. These feelings need to be felt. So she said, just basically what you just said, you need to acknowledge that it's there, let it be there, welcome it in even. And I know that can be super scary and uncomfortable, but But I remember one of the first times that I experienced this, I was having anxiety around money. And for me, it shows up, I call it anxiety pain, kind of around my solar plexus.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, when this started happening, I didn't know that was my solar plexus, right? This is like
Right.
ages ago, but no, before I knew all the things, right? And I was like, okay, no, this doesn't feel good. And I thought, okay, hang on a minute. Let's just try it. And I said, okay, I'm feeling anxious about money. And almost immediately it started to dissipate. It didn't go away totally, but it was just like the pain of it, or the annoyance of it, was just like trying to get my attention to acknowledge that it was there.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was mind blowing how quickly it transmuted back to just feeling neutral again, because I had let it be there. And I recognized it was there. I called it what it was. I gave it a name, and I said, okay, well, this isn't necessary. Like, everything's going to be okay. And like you say, then it gives you a chance to align to what you actually want and need to feel. And it's such a powerful process. I'm so glad that you shared that with us. So I know a lot of moms are silently struggling with anxiety, and they don't even realize it. That's the word. I think that's, the starting point is really awareness, right? Like I say all the time, awareness is more than half the battle, because once you're aware of it, you're halfway to the finish line, because now you can actually do something about it, right? So what are some of the most common symptoms or patterns that you see that are actually anxiety in disguise?
Oh, yeah. So I think that just honestly, that's a tough one for me to answer, because, anybody will be talking to me and I'm just like, oh, that's anxiety. Like, it's so natural for me to see.
Right.
And then somebody else is like, what, really? No, it's not. It's like, okay, well, you just stay in denial there. You let me know when you're ready. But, I think some of the most common ones that aren't recognized would be headaches, sleep disturbances, waking up between 2 and 4 a.m. That has to do with your cortisol is low or high. Stomach aches is a big one, that stomach pain, really physical ailments that cannot be, what's the word I want? Cannot be like figured out otherwise, because when we ignore our emotions, they're going to get our attention somehow, like you said.
Right.
So they're going to come through as some kind of physical pain. And so those are big ones. The stomach aches, back pain is a big one. Neck pain is a big one.
I've heard that.
Not able to concentrate, like eating habits changing. That's another big one. Craving certain foods can be another big one, but that can be for other variety of other reasons too, that I won't go down that rabbit hole. Yeah, I think those are the main ones that I've seen, and people are surprised that they're the anxiety symptoms.
Yeah, I could see that. So what do you recommend if somebody's listening, trying to decide, well, is this an anxiety response? What's something that they can start doing to see if they can like track a pattern or something?
Oh, so tracking patterns. I love assigning a mood journal for that.
So I love that.
Yeah. So I usually tell people, just get a journal, get anything. You can do it on your phone if you want. Just take 2 minutes at the end of your night before you go to bed, and just write down your top 1 to 3 emotions or moods that you had that day. And then I love rating. So do a rating scale, 0 to 10, 10 being the worst that it's ever been, 0 non-existent. So you can also see, because oftentimes too, when we look back and we're like, oh, today sucked, like I was anxious or upset all day long, but we look back at it and we're like, oh, that was really only about 20 minutes.
Yes.
Like, it didn't actually, my day wasn't ruined. It was just a really rough 20 minutes. Right. So when we're able to reflect that way, we're also able to see that we didn't have a terrible day. We just had a terrible moment.
I love that. I saw a post one time that said, did you have a bad day, or did you just have a bad 20 minutes that you let ruin the rest of your day? And I think that exercise that you're sharing there, I think will help people recognize that it was just 20 minutes and I did let it drag on. And then this is how you build the awareness, right? This is how you start flexing that muscle. And so the next time it comes up, maybe not the next time, but one of the next times, if you keep this up, I imagine it gets easier and easier to identify it and feel through the feelings right away, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Awareness is key. That's the little catchphrases that I always use with my clients. So awareness is key, and that's the first step. You have to know what you're feeling.
Right.
And there's other tips and tricks that I could go on forever about on how to start naming your emotions too, because I do think that's really important. But yeah, the mood journal is a great starting point. I also want to mention it's great for women too, because sometimes anxiety and depression especially come out at certain times during our cycle. If our hormones are off balance. So it's also good to know, is this coming up because of hormonal changes? Or is it like a true emotion that I need to go through and embrace, accept, and release? Because there are so many different reasons that anxiety can be showing up too. It could be a symptom of other things, hormonal changes, food, things like that.
Right. That's so important. So when you're juggling a business, a family, and your own nervous system, it's easy to live in a constant state of reaction, right? Like, especially as a mom, I find that we have it especially tough. I'm not saying that the dads don't have it tough, but I think as moms, we have it especially tough because I know you and I have had this conversation several times before. There's a heavy mental load that comes along with being a mom, right? Especially when we also decide to start businesses at the same time, because we're not only worried about making sure that we have our social media posts done and we're, all of our clients are happy and that we're working on our next offer, but also we're keeping track, kind of in the background of our mind. When is the milk going to run out? How many days till I need to get groceries? What are we doing for dinner tonight? What are we doing for dinner tomorrow? When does, one of the kids need to go to the dentist? When's the next appointment for this? We're almost out of this in the pantry. When is laundry? Where are my socks? Like, where does all this dust come from? Why is the dog shedding so much? Right. And there's just so much going on. So what's a powerful but simple shift a mom can start making to break that cycle of just constant reaction?
Oh yeah. So that takes a lot of practice. And my freebie that I offer, my 3 audio email series, is a really great starting point to start shifting from reacting to responding.
Oh, amazing. Okay.
Yeah. So, and it really just starts with your breath. I think our breath is often overlooked, but deep breathing is our foundation, and I will die on that hill. I love when a client walks into my room, not so much room anymore, but virtual room, right? And we go through the things and I'm like, okay, we're going to start with our first skill, and our first skill is deep breathing. And they're like, oh, no, I've tried that before and that doesn't work for me. And I'm like, okay, well, are you open-minded enough to try it this way? And they're like, okay, fine, I'll do it. And they come back, a week or 2 later, and they're like, oh, that was amazing. Like this, I've never had deep breathing work for me before. And the shift is, you can use any deep breathing technique. I prefer to use 4-7-8. And then I've added an extra pause in there. So breathe in for 4, hold for 7, breathe out for 8, and then another pause for 4. So we don't end up hyperventilating. And you repeat that 3 times minimum. So 3 times minimum takes you to about 1 minute, depending on how fast you count. But 1 minute breaks are what we need throughout our day to rewire our brain.
And how many 1 minute breaks do you recommend we take throughout the day?
7 times a day. Yep. So 7's our magic number. It's a beautiful angel number of completion, but we've got to do it 7 times to make consistent, or like to get that impact quicker. Like you could do it 3 times a day, but it's going to take you twice as long. So if you do it 7 times a day, that can be a new habit in as little as like 3 months, where it's no more something that you have to consciously think about. It's unconsciously happening behind the scenes, and you don't even realize it anymore because it's your new way of breathing. Because what we do is we take shallow breaths naturally.
Yes. So especially when we're stressed out. I've noticed that.
Yep, absolutely. So we've got to rewire the brain, and the only way to rewire your brain is with repetition and to do it when you're calm. You can, the mistake people were making is they were only using the deep breathing when they were already feeling anxious at a 8 or 9 or 10.
And by then recover.
It's too late. that's probably not it might knock you down to like a 7, but you'd have to do it for longer, than 2 minutes, which is recommended. So 1-minute breaks throughout your day, pair it with something that you already do. I'm a mom. I've had 2 children. I go to the bathroom often.
Yes. Yes.
So walking to and from the bathroom, you don't have to sit, you don't have to close your eyes. It's not a meditative breath. It's just going through the motions. So your body knows what to do the next time you're kicking in to a distressing emotion. So, so it's just going through that process of 4, 7, 8, or at least at a very minimum, a longer exhale than inhale. Mm-hmm. And it's those deep belly breaths. So your belly is expanding, right? We're pushing through our lungs into the diaphragm, and that's the key. And that's the foundation. If you can get those deep breaths in throughout your day, number one. So I use a volcano as an image in my program. So we've had all these suppressed emotions, and if we're feeling all these emotions throughout our day, stress, anxiety, overwhelm, anger, irritation, irritability, all of those, it's all building up. Right. And then we get home and, our kid comes out for the 3rd time at bedtime wanting a glass of water. It's got to go to the bathroom, and then we snap. That's because our volcano, we've reached capacity. We don't have the capacity to manage those little things anymore, right? So when you're doing those deep breaths 7 times a day or more, then you're processing those little emotions, so those aren't building up. And so then by the end of the night, you also have more capacity to manage all the things.
That's so important. I teared up too when you were talking about that, because I have done that, and then our little ones, spouses too, but our little ones, because they're the ones that ask all the questions, and as a manifester, like, I don't like being asked a lot of questions. So it's
I get that.
And it's like, I encourage my son to ask questions, but at the same time, it's like, stop asking me so many questions again, so, but I want him to ask questions. So, but I have definitely blown up on him when it's not his fault, and then I feel absolutely terrible. Then mom guilt sets in, then it gets worse. So this is a really great, precautionary, task to start implementing into your day. And I love how you said to add it onto something you're already doing. I have been talking about habit stacking for as long as I can remember, because it's just so much easier. Instead of trying to, especially when you're trying to add something you've never done before, it's so much easier to add it onto something you're already doing. And then the thing that you're already doing is the trigger to remind you. And then, like you say, then it becomes a habit. And then before you know it, I imagine, as you're walking to go to the bathroom, or as you're walking to leave the bathroom, or however you choose to do that, you naturally are taking a long exhale than an inhale.
Yep, absolutely.
You're keeping it. I love that, because I've said to people too, and this is more about meditating than deep breathing, but along the same lines, if you don't think you have time to meditate, you need it more than anybody.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you take the time to do this deep breathing, you will no longer find yourself in that place where you are snapping, where you are losing it, because you're giving your body that, what's the word I'm looking for? The ability to calm and to regulate multiple times a day. I love that. This is so helpful. I hope that everybody's taking notes. This is good. So I know that you're not just teaching this, that you're actually living it. So can you walk us through what your school hours CEO rhythm looks like in your life? What helps you balance presence and productivity?
Oh yeah, such a good question. So I think I'm still figuring out the best process for me, because also I'm a projector. So I am still trying to figure out how to balance work and naps for the most part. But what I have noticed is I have to get up before my kids, and I have to ideally get a meditation in, even if it is like a quick 7 to 10 minute one. I would love to be able to get to a point where I can meditate for 20 minutes. But I'm just not at that point where I can wake up early enough before my children. But it's waking up before my kids and having that time for myself. And without talking to my husband as well, which he is very well aware of. He's a generator. He wakes up, he's ready to go. And I'm just not on that level as a projector. So that's a big piece that I have realized for myself. And I think human design is also really important piece here, because you've got to be able to work with your own energy as well. But I think one of the biggest things though has been those breaks throughout the day, and then also using your beautiful mom method of planning out, my day and being able to put it all in one space. So I didn't have, because I used to have like 3 calendars, right? And
that's too many. That's too many.
I know. Tell me about it. But it just, it's what worked at the time, because
Right.
we had all the ones, and but being able to put it all on one document in one space, and it's like, okay, yes, this is what I'm doing for the week. And being able to just plan it out, like actually planning out your day, sitting down, taking that time and planning it out, by yourself with your spouse. And I started inviting my oldest in to help with decision making, like meal ideas, meal planning, and things like that. And we try to do that as a family. We don't always get there because now it's summertime and we're all over the place. But during the school years, at least, that has helped a ton. So I'm forever grateful for that with you. And then, yeah, I mean, really just like using all the skills that I've been taught and creating a routine. I don't like the word schedule because I don't like to stick to times. Right. But creating a routine of making time for myself. Like I have to fill my own cup first. Yes. Before I can take care of everyone else.
Yes, I love that. And I love that you talked about routine versus schedule, because I think just like you were just saying with the breathing and habit stacking on things you're already doing, even in business, I find that having a routine is much more sustainable than having a schedule. I mean, to an extent, I mean, obviously I'm trying to, and the moms listening, I imagine most of them are trying to build their business between school drop off and pickup. So that does require a schedule because, right. I've only got from like 9 to 2 to get things done. But if you can get the whole, I mean, and back up on my mom method, I like to plan in 90-day increments and then kind of overview the whole month. And because it's not about doing the same things every day or every week, even, it's about maximizing your time and planning, looking at, kind of zooming out and looking at the whole thing. So for example, batching content creation, right? I remember we had that conversation and I said, it's going to be so much easier for you to focus on whatever the main medium is. Like for me, it's these podcasts, right? And then I repurpose it into, well, I'm recording it as a YouTube video, behind the scenes podcast episode. So that goes on YouTube, then it goes on my podcast, then it gets, I take the transcript and repurpose it into a blog post, and I take the transcript and I repurpose it into a couple of emails. I cut the video down into shorts for social media. I use ChatGPT to help me do a lot of this stuff. I mean, obviously you want to prompt it properly so that it's recognizing your voice and it understands your mission and all of that. And I'm creating a resource to help moms take my system because it's been so helpful to me. And I know it's helped you and a ton of people. So I think more people would benefit from having it. But within reason, operating on a routine, especially when we're talking about all the things outside of the business, because the less, I think you'll agree with me, the less things we have to consciously think about, and the more things that are just become kind of, like you said, part of our routine, the easier life becomes, right? So if Sunday is, meal planning and prioritizing family things, and you start by zooming out, the routine is the beginning of the month, we put down all of the, all of our appointments, all of the kids' school things, all of the sports things, all of the, whatever the non-negotiable things, and then work from there. But you talked about this a minute ago. It's so important that filling our own cup, whatever that looks like for us. For some people, it's going to be taking a nap, taking a bath, going for a walk, journaling, reading, whatever it is, needs to be part of the routine. It has to, and to the point where everybody in your house understands that it's part of the routine and there's a hard and fast boundary around it. I used to feel so guilty about taking time for myself, but I have to, or I will literally wring somebody's neck. Like I need to. And speaking about human design, as a manifester, I used to think I was super lazy until I discovered that I was a manifester. And part of being a manifester is needing a lot of regeneration time. And I am married to a Manny-Gen, and my son is a generator. So I also badly need that time in the morning to just be by myself, have my coffee while it's still warm. Well, mostly while it's still warm, and just kind of just be in my own space because I can't.
Mhm.
I can't. We need to fill our own cup. So we need moms to understand that you have to be doing this for yourself, because the ripple effect to the rest of your family. I mean, whether you wear the pants or not is irrelevant. You're the matriarch of the household. And that means that your energy dictates the energy of the house. So it's vital
Mhm.
that you take that time for yourself and that you do this work and that you feel your feelings and you fill your own cup. Because if you do not, nobody else is going to do it for you. And as much as your husband knows that you need time for yourself, he's not going to remind you to go and
Mhm.
meditate or have a bath, and chances are he's going to say it at the wrong time and get his head cut off. So it's not, don't leave it up to him. You're the one that needs to set the boundaries, right? So this has been such an important conversation. And I hope the moms listening have appreciated it and taken what they need from it. And so you talked about your Stop the Spiral audio series earlier, for the woman who's ready to stop spiraling and start finding peace. So I'm going to link that below in the show notes and or description if you're watching on YouTube, because you need to grab that. I know that you've been getting amazing feedback about that. And actually, you've got your own podcast that's been getting really good feedback as well.
Yes, yeah, I absolutely love it. And I do want to say one quick thing about what you were just mentioning about filling our own cup and the ripple effect. And I just want to remind moms too, it's so important to remember that kids learn by observing. So when they see you doing these things, then they're gonna know, they're not gonna make sense of it at first, but when they become their own parents, when they're out on their own in their 20s and 30s, they're gonna know how to rest. They're gonna know how to rejuvenate and do those things. So, it's not selfish, it's smart, and it's important. And I just felt the need to say that as well. But yes, I do have my own podcast. Thank you for mentioning that as well. Moving through anxiety with more tips and tricks and science and all the things.
That's amazing. Yes, you need to be listening to our podcast. It's so good. I know it's been getting great feedback. And I just need to go back to what you were just saying too. That's so important that we're considering, like, if you can't stop moving for you, then stop moving for your kids, because they, like you say, they're watching, and actions speak louder than words. You can preach self-care all you want, but if you're not doing it yourself, I mean, and let's back up. Again, I know our parents were doing the best they could, but my mom never stopped. I remember her saying, she would come in the door. No, she worked out of the house too. And, I know, they were doing what they had to do, but she would come straight in. She would start making dinner. She would say, and I remember at one point she would say, I haven't even taken my shoes off. I've been on my feet all day. And she just would not take time for herself. Now, to be fair, she did take a bath every morning, but she did it in the morning before I was awake. So I never actively saw her doing any kind of self-care.
Yeah.
And so I didn't know how to do that. And I am one of those people. I have been living in a kind of a trauma response survival mode most of my life. I mean, I didn't even know how to identify my emotions until my son was in kindergarten and brought home this like emotion wheel. And I was like, oh, okay, this is so great. We can learn our emotions, right? But I was very much in production. Rest is lazy. We're raised by the boomers who were raised by, the war vets and all that. Like it's not their fault. I'm not saying it's anybody's fault, but I'm just saying this is why our generation seems to be, we get a lot of flack as millennials, but I'm telling you, like, we're doing God's work here by changing the trajectory of humankind. Like, that sounds heavy, but I'm telling you, right? Like, I've got, my son is Gen Alpha. And a lot of his friends, you can see, the moms that I'm talking to and the kids, we are changing the way that the world is operating. And that's important work. So if you feel guilty taking time for yourself, think about the bigger picture here, right? Because you help your child regulate their nervous system. They're not going to have the same issues that we have. I would love to see down the road, like, I'm getting way ideation right now, but I'm talking like way down the road. I'm hoping that anxiety and depression stops being a thing. And it starts going back to being a weird, like, oh, really? How come your nervous system isn't regulated? What do you mean? Right? Because that's the direction we're going. And if more of the people like you can do the work that you're doing, we can get there. And I think it's so important that people are listening to episodes like this and discussions like you have on your podcast and doing the work in your audio series and taking the time to focus on ourselves again in a productive way that helps us groom our kids to be regulated individuals who can actually enjoy their life fully because they're not doing this inner work that we're doing,
right,
to try to correct all of the things that we've grown up with, right?
Yeah, breaking all the cycles.
All the cycles. Thanks for making it my job. But anyway, that's all right. I'm okay. I'm up for the challenge. We'll do it, right? So, Katherine, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for being here. Like I said before, I'm going to leave links for all of Katherine's resources, podcast, freebie, all below. You can follow her on Instagram, follow her wherever you can follow her, get her email newsletters, all the things. You want to stay in her world because she's amazing. Thank you so much for being here, Katherine. It's been phenomenal. And I am so excited that you were able to make this happen.
Yes, thank you so much again for having me. This was a beautiful conversation and I am just lit up. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. You're so welcome. And thanks everybody for tuning in. Feel free to leave a comment or a review below and I will see you next time.